The message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Though in the vastness of space, such earthly distinctions meant little. Deep within the Arecibo Observatory's successor facility in Chile, Dr. Marcus Chen stared at his monitor, watching patterns that shouldn't exist cascade across the screen. The signal was deliberate, structured, and most importantly, it was getting stronger. Marcus pushed his glasses up his nose and leaned closer to the display. 23 years he'd been searching for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. And now that he'd found it, his hands trembled as he reached for the emergency contact button. This wasn't just any signal. This was a countdown within 6 hours. Every major government on Earth knew what Marcus had discovered. The signal originated from a point roughly 40 astronomical units from Earth, well beyond Neptune's orbit. It wasn't random radio noise or pulsar emissions. The mathematical precision of the pattern left no room for doubt. Someone, or something, was announcing their arrival. President Sarah Martinez stood before the United Nations General Assembly 3 days later. The usual cacophony of diplomatic tension had been replaced by an eerie unity of purpose. For the first time in human history, every single nation agreed on one fundamental truth. They were no longer alone, and whoever was coming didn't seem interested in hiding their approach. "My fellow humans," Martinez began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "We face a moment that will define not just our generation, but every generation that follows. The signal continues to broadcast, and our best minds have decoded its meaning. In 72 days, we will have visitors." The preparations that followed defied every prediction sociologists had made about human behavior in the face of existential threat. Instead of panic, there was purpose. Instead of division, there was cooperation. Construction crews worked around the clock building underground shelters, not out of fear, but as contingency. Scientists from competing nations shared decades of classified research. Even the stock markets, those notorious barometers of human anxiety, remained surprisingly stable. Admiral Jessica Thompson commanded the newly formed Earth Defense Coalition from a bunker beneath Cheyenne Mountain. She watched as humanity's modest fleet of spacecraft, mostly repurposed mining vessels and research stations, moved into position around Earth. They knew their ships were likely no match for whatever technology could broadcast across interstellar distances, but standing idle was not in humanity's nature. The signal changed on day 60. Where before it had been a steady countdown, now it carried additional information. Images, star charts, and what appeared to be a universal translation matrix. The aliens, it seemed, wanted to talk. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading Zin, worked tirelessly to decode the new data. What she found sent chills through the emergency council. The visitors called themselves the Hegemony, a collective of 17 species united under what they termed protective governance. Their message was polite, even friendly, but the subtext was clear. Earth had been noticed, evaluated, and found suitable for integration. Resistance, while not explicitly discouraged, was noted as historically unsuccessful. The images they sent showed gleaming cities on distant worlds, abundant resources, and seemingly peaceful coexistence between species. But Marcus Chen, who had first detected their signal, noticed something others missed. In every image, the non-hegemony species wore identical expressions. Not happiness, not contentment, but resignation. On day 71, telescope arrays around, the world detected the visual confirmation everyone had been waiting for. 300 vessels, each one dwarfing Earth's largest space station, decelerated from speeds that should have been impossible. They arranged themselves in perfect formation, a net of steel and energy surrounding Earth at a distance of 200,000 kilometers. The lead ship, a crystalline behemoth that seemed to bend light around itself, transmitted directly to Earth on all frequencies. The face that appeared on every screen was almost human, but not quite. The eyes were too large, the features too symmetrical, as if someone had tried to design the perfect ambassador but had forgotten that perfection itself was alien to humanity. "Greetings, Earth," the being said in flawless English, Mandarin, Spanish, and a dozen other languages simultaneously. "I am Executor Vanis of the Hegemony. We come in peace, offering prosperity and protection. Your species shows remarkable potential, and we would welcome you into our collective. You have one rotation of your planet to consider our offer." President Martinez responded from the UN headquarters, now functioning as Earth's de facto capital. "Executor Vanis, we thank you for your peaceful approach. However, Earth requires more information before making such a momentous decision. What exactly does joining your hegemony entail?" Vanis smiled, an expression that didn't quite reach those two large eyes. "Security, abundance, and purpose. Your defensive capabilities, while admirable in their creativity, are insufficient for the dangers of the galaxy. 23 civilizations have attempted to remain independent in this sector. None have survived. We offer a different path. The veiled threat wasn't lost on anyone." Admiral Thompson quietly initiated Protocol 7, humanity's last resort defensive plan. Around the world, in bunkers and command centers, fingers hovered over switches that would either save or doom humanity. As the deadline approached, Earth made its move, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of attacking or surrendering, Earth went completely dark. Every satellite, every radio transmission, every light on the night side of the planet simply stopped. To the hegemony's sensors, it was as if Earth had simply ceased to exist. Executor Vanis stood on his command deck, watching the planet below with growing confusion. No species had ever responded to first contact this way. The complete electromagnetic silence was impossible unless... He turned to his science officer, a creature of living crystal that hummed with concern. "Scan again," Vanis ordered. Full spectrum. The results were the same. Earth was still there physically, but electromagnetically it might as well have been a dead rock. Even their most advanced sensors couldn't penetrate whatever the humans had done. In the darkness below, humanity held its breath. The real test was about to begin. The Revelation Executor, Vanis, had witnessed the integration of 12 species into the hegemony. Some had fought with primitive weapons, others had attempted negotiation, and a few had simply surrendered. But never in 3,000 years of recorded hegemony history had a species simply ... vanished. The electromagnetic blackout continued for 6 hours. Every attempt to scan Earth's surface failed. Even quantum sensors, capable of detecting individual atomic movements, returned nothing but noise. It was as if humanity had wrapped their entire planet in a blanket of absolute nothing. Science Officer Crix vibrated with increasing frequency, a sign of deep distress in his crystalline species. "Executor, this should not be possible. The energy required to maintain such a field would be detectable. The humans show no signs of such advanced technology in their transmitted data." Vanis studied the tactical display, his genetically enhanced mind processing thousands of scenarios. The humans had to be using some form of technology, but what? Their ships remained visible, floating dead in space, powered down but still present. Only the planet itself had become a cipher. Then, at hour 7, something changed. A single point of light appeared on Earth's surface. Then another, and another. Within minutes, patterns emerged. Not random illumination, but deliberate messages written in light across continents. The messages were simple, repeated in the mathematical language the hegemony had provided. We choose neither surrender nor war. We choose conversation. Admiral Thompson watched from her bunker as humanity's greatest gamble unfolded. The blackout hadn't been a defensive measure or an attack. It had been a demonstration. Earth had spent decades secretly developing quantum encryption technology, not for military purposes, but for something far more ambitious. They had created a planetary shield that didn't block energy or matter, but information itself. The real revelation came when Earth partially lifted the veil. Suddenly, the hegemony's sensors could detect everything, but only what humanity chose to show them. Cities appeared and disappeared. Military installations flickered in and out of existence. It was selective reality, controlled entirely by Earth President. Martinez opened a channel to the hegemony fleet. This time, she appeared not from the UN building, but from a location that shouldn't exist. A space station that hadn't been there moments before. Executive Vanis, I believe we need to discuss terms, but perhaps not the terms you originally intended. Vanis felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. Explain. Your hegemony offers protection from the dangers of the galaxy. Martinez continued. But who protects the galaxy from the hegemony? You've shown us images of 17 species living in harmony, but our analysis suggests something different. Would you like to know what we found? Without waiting for a response, Earth's shield shifted again. This time, it projected information directly into the hegemony fleet's computers. Not an attack, but a mirror. Every piece of data the hegemony had collected about Earth was reflected back, but transformed. The humans had reverse-engineered not just the translation matrix, but the entire communication protocol. They were speaking to each ship in its native data language, showing them exactly how Earth had decoded their true intentions. The integration process wasn't protection. It was absorption. Species didn't join the hegemony. They were consumed by it. Their uniqueness slowly eroded until they became just another resource. The resignation Marcus Chen had noticed in those images wasn't peace, but the slow death of cultural identity. We offer an alternative, Martinez said. True partnership. Exchange without extinction. Each species maintains its sovereignty while sharing knowledge and resources. No hegemony, but a commonwealth. Vanis wanted to laugh. A species that had barely achieved interplanetary travel was proposing to restructure a galactic government that had existed for millennia. But then the tactical display changed again. Earth's modest fleet, which had appeared powered down, suddenly blazed to life, not with weapons or shields, but with the same information-cloaking technology that surrounded Earth. They had been hiding in plain sight. And if humanity could hide entire ships from the hegemony's sensors, what else were they hiding? Dr. Tanaka appeared on another channel, broadcasting to the entire hegemony fleet in perfect reproduction of each species' native language. She didn't just speak their words, she spoke with their cultural concepts, their metaphors, their deep linguistic structures. It should have taken centuries to achieve such understanding. Earth had done it in 72 days. To our friends from beyond the stars, she said, each word carefully chosen for maximum impact in 17 different cultural contexts. We are humanity. We are young, but we learn quickly. We are weak, but we adapt. We are alone, but we choose connection. The question is not whether Earth will join the hegemony, but whether the hegemony is ready for humanity. The quantum shield flickered once more, and suddenly every ship in the hegemony fleet found their communication systems flooded with data. Not malicious code, but stories. Millions upon millions of human stories. Wars and peace, love and loss, triumph and failure. The entire collected narrative of a species that had gone from caves to quantum mechanics in the blink of a cosmic eye. Commander Threx of the hegemony's 3rd Battalion, a warrior species that had been integrated 500 years ago, found himself reading about something called the Battle of Thermopylae. 300 warriors holding against impossible odds, not for victory, but for the idea that resistance itself had meaning. He hadn't felt his warriors' hearts beat this strongly since before integration. Science Officer Crix discovered human music. Mathematics transformed into emotion, patterns that spoke to the fundamental harmonics of his crystalline structure. His people had been told such expressions were inefficient, discouraged by the hegemony's optimization protocols. But this was beautiful. Across 300 ships, 17 species rediscovered something they thought they had lost. The possibility of choosing their own path. Executor Vanis watched his perfectly ordered fleet begin to fragment. Not in rebellion, but in curiosity. Ships began communicating with Earth directly, bypassing hegemony protocols. Some requested more information about this Commonwealth concept. Others simply wanted to hear more stories. "What have you done?" he asked Martinez, though there was no anger in his voice, only a genuine desire to understand. "We've shown them what you've forgotten," she replied. "That diversity isn't a weakness to be corrected, but a strength to be celebrated. Your hegemony offers survival, but at what cost? We offer something different, not perfect, not easy, but genuine." The next words came not from Martinez, but from Marcus Chen, the astronomer who had started it all. "Executor Vanis, 72. Days ago, I detected your signal. It was perfect, mathematical, precise, everything a signal should be. But it was also cold, mechanical, it had no soul. Humanity's signal might be chaotic, imperfect, even contradictory, but it's alive, and life. True life is messy." Earth's shield dropped completely then, revealing the truth. The planet below blazed with light, but not just electromagnetic radiation. Every human on Earth was broadcasting, not through technology, but through the simple act of living. 7 billion distinct signals, each one unique, creating a chorus that no amount of integration could ever harmonize into sameness. Vanis stood in silence for a long moment, processing what he witnessed. The hegemony had spent 3,000 years perfecting order, creating peace through conformity, and in 72 days, humanity had shown them another way. Not better, necessarily, but different, and in that difference lay possibilities the hegemony had forgotten existed. "Your proposal," he finally said. "This Commonwealth, the Hegemony Council will need to discuss this." "Take all the time you need," Martinez replied. "We'll be here, we're very good at waiting. And while you decide, perhaps your people would like to visit, not as conquerors or integrators, but as guests. We have coffee, music, and stories too." Share the offer hung in space between them, simple and revolutionary. Not surrender, not victory, but something neither side had expected: friendship, one by one. Ships in the hegemony fleet began signaling their interest, not as a collective, but as individuals. The perfect formation that had arrived at Earth began to dissolve, replaced by something far more chaotic, but infinitely more alive. Admiral Thompson turned to her staff in the bunker. "Stand down from Protocol 7, but keep the shield ready. We're about to have company, and I want to make sure we're good hosts." As the first hegemony shuttle requested permission to land, not as conquerors but as visitors, Earth prepared to do what it did best: adapt, learn, and transform challenge into opportunity. The galaxy had come knocking, expecting to find another species to integrate. Instead, they found humanity, and humanity had other plans. The age of the hegemony was ending. The age of the Commonwealth was about to begin. And somewhere in Chile, Dr. Marcus Chen smiled as he watched new signals arrive from deep space. These weren't countdown timers or demands for surrender. They were questions, invitations, and the first tentative steps toward a galaxy where diversity wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated. Earth had stood silent for 7 hours, but in that silence, humanity had spoken louder than any transmission ever could. They had shown the galaxy that strength didn't come from unity of thought, but from unity of purpose while maintaining individual identity. The revolution hadn't come through weapons or technology, but through the simple, powerful act of being unabashedly, chaotically, beautifully human.